Holler if you hear me, and welcome to this week's edition of Luke Covers, because Neil Gaiman, oh yeah, talk about a rise and fall narrative. This gentleman, this was a guy to whom the literary world would not shut up about. This was a guy to whom, when you looked at his work, this was somebody who, even though he got his start and got really his name as an individual writer in the world of comic books, which the rest of the mainstream world only ever accepts if it's the most pretentious, most drivel-inducing little self-indulgent garbage. You know, a lot of autobiographies of people who don't do anything to, quote, fellow male feminist Warren Ellis. But on all of this, all of that, you had to either completely not along with the deification of this man, or else that was a one-way ticket to Squaresville. But if hating derivative garbage is going to mean I'm not going to be on the Christmas card list for some pretentious little idiot out of Portland, okay, I'll be more than happy with that. But now the downfall has come, as we always expect with men like him who won't shut up about the Me Too movement being so important and special and all that, about how you are an evil misogynist if you voted the way that is incorrect according to the BBC or CNN, depending on which side of the Atlantic you're on. Those men wind up always proving the brighter the virtue signal, the darker the allegations. And, well, with little Miss Pavlovich and the allegations that she was describing in the Vulture article done by little Miss Lila Shapiro, the same woman who also had the big expose that took down Joss Whedon, I might add, it turns out now, those allegations of him being right on the level with Mr. Combs have now been extended to the point of Miss Pavlovich taking him to court. Oh, yes. And he's got a multi-state bit of a court case against him. And I wonder how much the people in the press will actually go and pursue this or go and talk about it in comparison to the big evil orange man full of a bunch of hot air and nothing when it came towards our 47th president. But when it comes to this guy, because he had the correct politics and has all the right friends and all that, hence to wonder why it took so long after these allegations started coming out from the Tortoise podcast that they finally decided in the mainstream press to acknowledge this. And now the dominoes are falling of all the corporations that are desperate to keep their names out there and keep their names positive in the press. Now suddenly CAA, his agency, is dropping him in America. His British agent now also is dropping him. On top of that, you have got a stage production of his novel Coraline being canceled. You've got now the Good Omens. They're now dealing there in almost multi-jurisdictional kind of way, where you have the Terry Pratchett estate promising that Neil Gaiman will not receive any new money from any of this, any future sales of the book that he quote-unquote co-authored with Terry Pratchett. And really, it was more like Neil Gaiman being the consummate, hanger-on, the consummate hustler who was able to go and get an actually experienced, actually talented author with his own actual thoughts, like Terry Pratchett with his Discworld stories, to go and co-author something with Gaiman, knowing that Gaiman always, from the root to the fruit, was a guy, well, if you don't understand just how much of a disgusting criminal pervert he was, remember, he started out as a journalist, so criminal pervert already is something that we should have already known. But then on top of that, you add in that it was something where, in the world of comic books, he got to start thanks to kissing up to Alan Moore, and Alan Moore, yeah, only the most pretentious and the most communist and the most perverted of little freaks are going to get the respect of Alan Moore, and that Moore will go and take over work of his, like when Gaiman was personally chosen to continue on the Miracle Man storyline that Alan Moore was doing, the one that never got finished because of the original American publisher of the comic going under. And then from there, you have all the people and all the machinery he got into with DC, thanks to, well, I am a very pretentious writer with an English accent. That means that Karen Berger, you should be hiring me too. Because, look, Alan Moore likes me. You should be hiring me because, well, if Alan Moore likes me, that means I must be brilliant. And thus, the whole British invasion with the Sandman that he started on doing. And, well, at least with the Sandman, he was doing his own story, and it was his own thing by himself. Although, always Neil Gaiman, it's been a thing where if you really look at his work objectively, this is a guy who no wonder he was making fun of Steve Ditko in that BBC documentary about Ditko, where half of it is praising Ditko, but of course these people psychologically are incapable of a man like Steve Ditko and just simply being able to praise his work because how dare he be an objectivist? How dare he look at the work of Ayn Rand and find validity in it and praise it? Don't you know that she was evil and all that because we say so? Yes, she's bad because NPR tells me. But basically, that's what they want out of that. And also on top of that, when it comes to a guy like Neil Gaiman and the allegations against him, where now Ms. Pavlovich in that Lila Shapiro article, she's now taking him to court and now has this lawsuit against him, which involves his ex-wife, little Miss Amanda Palmer, because in these she alleges that, oh yeah, it was a deal where little Miss Palmer warned Gaiman about not going anywhere near her. We want to hire her as a nanny, knowing Gaiman was a criminal pervert. But did little Miss Palmer warn the lady, little Miss Pavlovich, against this? No. No, she didn't warn her about Gaiman at all. And was perfectly okay with her, even though Pavlovich was both, mentally unstable and also financially vulnerable. Did that matter? No. Okay, go on in there. And when little Miss Pavlovich went to Palmer to tell her about what Gaiman had done, she responded with, oh yeah, all these other women that have those similar allegations. And when she was in the hospital, that's when Gaiman sent his little flying monkeys out there to make sure she would sign a non-disclosure agreement in exchange for paying her rent. And it appears to, out of all this, we now have trafficking allegations and charges going up against the Gaiman. So. This is why, when it comes to describing somebody as being accused of, misconduct or assault towards women, I'm not going to go and say those direct words that, of course, will get me tripped up with the YouTube algorithm. I'll simply now, from here on out, describe them as male feminist. Yes. Maybe. Now, to the point where Charlie Sheen's looking back at these people and going, my God, I just get angry at prostitutes and smack them around or choke them a little. I don't want them to look up my feces and call me master. No, I just want them to they're just my goddesses. I treat them like goddesses. You treat them like my God, even the Marquis de Sade would vomit at that stuff. And going back to Neil Gaiman pretentiously belittling Steve Ditko's work, why? Is it because Ditko's a guy who spent his adult life dedicating his independent comic book work towards singing the praises of a woman and her philosophical writings with Ayn Rand, while you are busy, with bathtub cuddles and fecal engagements and things like that, Gaiman? Well. Knowing Gaiman and knowing the massive connections he had that were able to repress these reportings for at least a good solid year or so, except for John Delarose reporting on it, and a PR crisis team doing everything they can to flood Reddit with all kinds of talk about the second season of The Sandman on Netflix to artificially boost searches to be positive for Gaiman instead of negative. I'm also going to say, when it comes to people that are ahead of their time or ahead of the curve, Todd McFarlane definitely is ahead of the curve out of all of us in knowing that Neil Gaiman was a jackass, and now it's all being proven. And that's not my opinion. I know I'm right. So I want to thank you for watching. Subscribe so the channel hits 10,000 subs. Become a member today and shop at my art store at the second link below, where you can buy my art or commission me, or you can donate to show your support. So until then, felines, slam it, lick it, suck it, and see you, Space Cowboy.